It's not my coding versus their coding. It's my coding versus their setups. I'm fast, but I'm not faster than engineering with LLMs.
This is Kitze, a solo builder who juggles 140 projects, and we discuss how the best engineers are moving faster with agent setups.
Every time I get frustrated, just add that to a police file.
One day, there were like 300 changes in like 200 repositories. How do you do that in the first place? We are becoming the bottleneck.
We are. Either you're a fucking rock star or you're gone. Run, be a plumber, be an electrician, be someone who's going to be 10 times more paid than us. On a serious note, my number one advice would be...
I saw your talks on we're going from vibe coding to vibe engineering. What does vibe engineering mean to you?
Just someone with a lot of technical knowledge who then drives the agents. I hate how we're throwing an umbrella term that everything vibe coded is bad, and the verb like vibe coding is so vague and so wide that people just throw it at everything.
It's a meme now.
It's a meme at this point, and I hate how much like we kind of forgot that most people sucked at design and coding. So when you see most personal websites before LLMs were just horrible and trash.
Yeah.
And most apps look like bootstrappy or tailwindy or like Shadcn-ish. And now we are on this high horse just judging LLMs. Oh, that's slob. That's
looks the same.
a gradient. Like you didn't even know how to write a gradient 3 years ago. And they're like, ew, that's like has too many colors and whatever. So I don't like the term. I like to differentiate them because people with a lot of engineering experience, when they drive agents, you get like 20 times better results because they already know where do they want to go. It would just be slower if they do it file by file, line by line, and now they can just take a shortcut. And vibe coders are just like throwing shit at the wall until it sticks, hoping that the thing is going to work. So that's the main difference, I would say.
Vibe coding for me, I love that everyone can now be a builder.
Yeah.
And that's what you do with vibe coding. But the whole vibe engineering part, you mentioning engineers being better at that.
Yeah.
That doesn't always add up for me. Some people still have challenges actually having the agents do what they want to do or feeling like a babysitter.
Yes.
What is something that works really well for you that others can do as well?
15 minutes with Fable 5 yesterday to start yelling at it.
Yeah.
First 15 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, this is super intelligence. It's so much smarter than off. You fuck. And then I start with the swearing. You can feel that it's different than the other ones. You can feel something new, but you can still smell the LLM underneath. So I think the least frustrations that I've ever had with a model was in the Codex app with GPT 5.5 is the most smooth, stable agent to work with. It feels like a very mature, like Guilfoyle from Silicon Valley, if you've seen the show. It feels like he's stable and mature. He's going to stop you from doing stupid shit. When you want to do something, it can actually say, no, we're not going to do that. And I feel like we had the best. If I measure the amount of times that I press caps lock, it's probably the least amount of times. Anytime I try to take a shortcut like, oh, let me be faster with Composer 2.5 or whatever, it always inevitably ends up with like, what the fuck did you do? That was not smart and blah, blah, blah. So I still think it depends on the skills that you have, as a human, the knowledge you have as a human, combined with how much of that knowledge is written as skills, rules, memories, and other stuff that the agent actively reads from. I think many people are just, even as you said, like even senior engineers and people who know architecture and stuff, they still are, the LLM is not going to magically extract your knowledge from your brain, and you will inevitably end up frustrated unless you turn that knowledge into rules and what do we call this? Like when you have a combination of like ESLint and TypeScript checks and a bunch of other rules. Like I've written something for myself called like a police script, which is like rules and things that that linters cannot catch, because linters have a limit what they can do, what they cannot do. So with an LLM, I wrote my own like linter in a way that's more expansive. And every time I get frustrated, I'm like, just add that to a police file. So we have all of these police files, and the agent basically, when it's done, it's auto kicking another session of like correcting itself. It's like, okay, let me correct TypeScript, then let me correct the linter, let me run the formatter, and finally let me do the police check. And when it finds like 30 police errors, it will launch like sub-agents that would each correct all of those errors. And we end up, the goal is to end every turn with like a 0. 0 issues, 0 warnings, 0 errors, 0 type problems, and then you'll be happier. Most people don't have this loop, like agentic loop, to make sure that, and many people do it like maybe every day or every week or every month, and then it's too late. You need it on every turn. The turn ends, the agent self-corrects everything. The turn ends, and it's like, I see it like an evolving mechanism that you need to keep working on it, like your own thing. Your thing will be different from my thing, but you need to keep evolving it. And most people just keep it stale and keep prompting, hoping something lucky is going to happen.
It's funny because the front runners I talk to, they're on this level, right? When something goes wrong, distill the behavior and capture it somewhere. As much as you can in static code analysis, in hooks afterwards, but also in agent files, in skill files, wherever you can, the behavior that you want, you need to capture it somewhere.
Yes.
That for me is the kind of newer engineering practice.
Yes.
Is the question of where do you do that?
This is like a completely new skill. And people like, my entire talk is that people see this as typing English and code comes out. This is like a completely different skill set that most engineers don't want new skills. Like we've learned how to modify files and someone is fast at Vim. And I was like very fast at WebStorm, for example. I always had this joke that I can beat someone in speed when it comes to me using a traditional IDE versus you using all the shortcuts in Vim. And
you're probably really proud of that.
I was proud of that, and people liked watching my Twitch streams because always there were comments like, holy fuck, like this guy's coding at the speed of light. But I put my ego aside and I put that in the past. Like I'm fast, but I'm not faster than engineering with LLMs. So now it's like I cannot flex my new skills. Like, look at me, I can write rule files better. But it's all about how deeply you want to develop this new skill of like, whatever we call it. We just throw names like vibe engineering, agentic engineering.
It's now loop engineering.
What is
it's now loop engineering.
Loop engineering. Yeah. Of course, there's like a new buzzword coming every week. And many people don't want to train this muscle. And many people are like, I muted Fable 5 on my Twitter feed because I don't want to read about it. They're so scared. They're even muting the word. They're like, I need to develop something new and I don't want to bother with that. So I'm not the best. I'm far from the best. Sometimes, like a lot of times I go on Twitter and I see someone else's setup. And I'm like, holy fuck, some people are really, really deep and ahead of this, you know? So
I wonder how you did that though, because the people that I know from past experience, the people that I look up to that were, for example, blazing fast, they, when I talk to them now, do have a hard time kind of pivoting. Because like you mentioned, they were really proud of that.
Yes.
And they're still proud of that, right? They're like, well, the agent is faster, yes. But I love doing this, so I'm going to keep doing this. It's kind of hard to let go of that.
Yeah.
How did you let go?
I don't have that mentality. Like in college, I liked studying all the subjects and everything regarding IT until I got enough knowledge to like, I can create my own stuff now. And that was it for me.
Okay.
Like, I don't care further. Like some students loved going deeper into algorithms and optimization and into like math-ish stuff. And my brain is just tuned to like solutions and problems. Like I see everything is, all the products, everything I've built just stem from my own problems. And I'm like, I just want to solve problems and I don't care about the underlying whatever. So somewhere around like second year of college, I just tuned out completely. And like, I completed it and stuff, but I was like, there's no way I'm pursuing this further. And some people are meant to be deep into engineering problems and deep into like performance optimization. And they just enjoy that part of the job. So we're all under the same umbrella of like front-end or full-stack developer or engineer or architect, whatever. But there's like vastly different characters, like two camps of like, I want to solve things and I want to engineer on a deep level. And I think the amount of people who can engineer on a deep level, I had this in a joke in a talk that I just gave once and never again, that most of us listening to what I'm saying here have clawed their way into this industry by pirating Photoshop and doing some shitty PHP website and then watching some jQuery tutorial and then by some luck landing an internship somewhere where they let you fuck around with like Angular or whatever. And somehow you just hop from one thing to the other and you end up where you are.
Yeah.
That's vastly different from the person who has like a master's degree and can write C++ and they're like super, it's not even about intelligence. It's just like they wanted to pursue that path.
Yeah.
So those people are the ones that are most hurt. They're like, oh, what the fuck do I do with this? You know? So even they are going to thin out. It's like, which percent of them are the valuable ones that you want to keep in companies like, I don't know, Netflix, Google, Facebook. But then most of the companies are not FANG. Most of the companies are just regular companies who want to get shit done. And those people, if 5 of them were needed there, now maybe 1 would be needed to drive agents. And of course, they're struggling.
This is interesting. So the problem you solve might change and you have to be okay with the problem changing and you being a problem solver.
Yes.
Or you stick with the problem and being like, I want to solve this problem.
Yes. I want to do my hobby. Cool. But no one's going to pay you for that. In the upcoming few years, you can do your hobby in your free time, do coding challenges, do advent of code, do whatever. Like I have a almost 3-year-old daughter. which I'm like, she doesn't see screens and stuff for now because I'm struggling. Like, how do I introduce you to this world of like, do we start with Microsoft Paint or do I show you Gemini Nano Banana that can create anything in your imagination? Like, it's very hard. So if you want to, like, I think my point is that programming and all of these are very valuable skills to have. And I would like my daughter to manually learn how to do like coding from scratch and all of these things, because I think it develops something in your brain. But chess also develops something in your brain, and no one's going to pay you to play chess somewhere. No. People struggle with this. There's like, it's all about money, and you're a piece of the puzzle in some company. You're like, oh, but what about my values and all the books and all the algorithms? Like, welcome to, like, I think that engineers and people in IT need a rude awakening. And I've been saying this for years and people hate it. I think that most people in this industry are overpaid to fuck around, to have like 5 lunches at LinkedIn. Have you seen those TikTok videos where it's like, this is my third meal of the day in my life. And I'm going to the LinkedIn car mechanic. Oh, here's the dog groomer and they're grooming my dog. Like, all of these perks and stuff for you to move lines with React, like it never made sense to me. I'm like, this is going to burst and we're going to be leveled down to like, hey, like, wake up. You're just in the job market like any other human is, because we always had this like, we're above, we're IT. So anyone doing anything else, we're like, yo, like we're in IT. But I think the rude awakening is starting to happen. We're like gonna face reality is like, fuck, my skills are not that unique and valuable.
I do agree there, because a few years ago, you could follow a boot camp or you could YouTube tutorial yourself. You can still self-educate. But right now, there is just this accelerator that is, the baseline is just as good as all the people that have gone through that. 100%. So you have to add value on top.
Yes.
Where do you do that and how do you do that?
100%.
If you don't want to figure that out, then it's indeed a rude awakening.
And most people don't. Like, the bar for a job for me, it got like way too high right now. It was super easy. Know a bit of HTML and CSS. Everyone was hungry for jobs. We need more
Especially
developers.
After COVID.
Yeah. Just well, let's hire anyone. We'll train them. We'll do whatever. And now the bar is like very, very high. You need to bring not only engineering knowledge, but some, let's say, medium level engineer, I want to say, with agentic knowledge of how to juggle agents and write rules, blah, 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 can outperform, I would say, 5 stubborn seniors who are like clinging to their, no, I will do it my way and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, which combo can you, I think we need to rethink everything. Like the interview process and all of that, like the old values of how you write clean code and blah, blah, blah don't matter. If you find the right combo, not of a vibe coder who just started yesterday, of like someone with technical knowledge who adapted to this new thing, you can easily start replacing entire teams. Like teams of 10 go to teams of 2 and so on and so forth.
I like
People
that.
People don't like hearing this. I think they think if they don't hear it and if they don't try the agents, they think they're going to slow down this entire thing from happening.
I do agree that there has never been as much, let's say, marketing noise as there is right now. But for me, the fun thing is there is an equal level of playing field, right?
Yes.
New model Fable 5 came out. When you're listening to this, it's probably weeks ago. But it came out for everyone at the same time, right? You have a subscription, you have access. Yes, there are some challenges with regards to data retention. So in some enterprises, not yet. But it means it's available for everyone. And same with regards to loop engineering is now the newest term, but it does have value, right? Engineer your process and engineer your loops in such a way that the outcome is of high quality.
Yes.
And you can be a senior or you can be a junior.
Yes.
And you figure out the same thing, which means that is your edge. That is where you have value right now. And there is a strong belief that this is here to stay, which makes it really cool that if you're early in career, you can learn a lot and you can accelerate.
Yes.
You don't have the same baggage, which is a downside or an upside, depending on how you look at it. But people can excel nowadays, I think, faster than any other time as well.
100%.
Which is very exciting.
I have that joke in my talk that the way I learned programming was by texting a friend of a friend, and this is a real story, on MSN Messenger back in the day.
Oh yeah, MSN.
And they would play Counter-Strike, and you would see, I don't know if it had like you would see their media player just listening to some song, and you text them a C# question, and maybe they reply 30 minutes later, and maybe it makes sense, and maybe it doesn't. Like, even to have ChatGPT like 3 level of intelligence back in my college days, I would have learned at 20 times more speed.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was like, this was before college actually. I just wanted to learn, but there was no path to ask and to learn. So now you can do both. Like, even vibe coders can learn more about engineering. Like, they don't have to learn how to write a for loop, but they can learn the difference between a WebSocket and doing things in another way. So it's like, the playing field, as you say, it's open, but for people who want to evolve and for people who who want to learn. And it's the oldest rule in this industry that people don't want to change. They didn't even want to change frameworks. Like when React came along, it was so hard to move my team back in the day to tell them, look, like how we're doing things in Angular compared to this. It's like, oh, it's the new kid bringing new stuff that I do. Like, just leave me alone, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was a really good practice to stay with tried and true technologies, right? Depending on the domain that you're in.
Yeah.
And now I feel like you can either see this as a big bubble and people bring out the cost economics, or they bring out this one example where everything got deleted and we'll be like, well, look, this is the risk. Fair. Those examples exist.
Yes.
But for the majority of people, this is going to be a really cool tool.
Yes.
It is also, for me personally, very fun to just be like, I have an idea, let's execute on this. And while this is working, let me try and figure out this.
Yes.
And actually, oh, it looks like shit. Well, how do I make it not look like shit next time?
Yes.
And that's kind of this back and forth. It's almost like gaming my way through a system.
That's how it feels.
And I feel like I have level ups and I feel like I have checkpoints.
Yes.
It's very similar.
Yeah. It's to me, it's like way more exciting than the old way of doing things. My head was like bursting with ideas and I couldn't get to all of them.
Yeah.
Even now I cannot get to all of them, but at least I'm trying which tools, which techniques, which methods I can leverage to finally get all of this out of my head and like get this. I had this like ecosystem of apps that I have planned in my head.
Okay.
All of them are currently in a lackluster state, completely buggy, completely unfinished, because I still haven't found this. I hate the word loop because it's clickbaity now, right? But I haven't found this like way to keep them going in the background and to keep.
Yeah.
There's not a perfect orchestrator. Like the agents are there, the intelligence is there. Even I realized this with Fable 5. I'm like, I realized the intelligence wasn't really the problem. Like, cool, it's intelligent, but GPT-5, Opus, whatever, they're good enough.
Very smart.
If you put the right orchestrator, loops, rules, whatever, guardrails around them.
Let's
I
break
think
it
what
down
people
then.
think by smart is like, I can be very short in my prompts and be like, make no mistakes, and I don't need to bother. And it does things magically. I think that's what they mean by this new model is like very smart.
I want to break it down then, because you have some stuff that has been working well for you.
Yeah.
If we start in a fresh code base, you have this idea you want to execute on. What do you transfer from other projects? Is it AgentMD files? Is it skills? What do you rely on, and how would you excel at something new?
I think the skills are reused across all my projects. So any agent, like when I start something new, I always point to an existing code base. So I either fork my own thing, which is 0 to shipped, if it makes sense, if I need like a full stack app with a mobile and blah, blah, blah. Or if I need something simpler, it's like the Vite Plus with React, with Tailwind, with ChatCN. But I always try to point it like, hey, we're making, let's say, a budget tracker, and I want it to be like X, whatever app I have. And it's like very good at like taking the boilerplate out and just making a clone. I would never start just like, if you start fresh with nothing, it would just go its own way and just maybe do a, choose whatever stack it wants.
Yeah. For me, my running hypothesis is that code needs to be simple and easy to change. If we don't engineer for that, then maybe in your organization or in your project, you would have needed a rewrite 4 or 5 years down the line.
Yes.
So if you don't engineer for that, that timeline is just going to accelerate.
Yeah.
And then you need to rewrite in like 6 months instead of years.
Yes.
So still you want your code to be simple and easy to change. And now we're going to engineer around that, right? How can you engineer either in your skills, your AgentMD files, your hooks, static code analysis in such a way that that stays true? And hopefully when those ingredients are in place, you can just take them from one project and apply them to another, or somehow they make it their way into the harness and the harness facilitates that for you.
I get that frustration. I'm like, why aren't most of these things into the harnesses yet?
Yeah.
Because we want this laziness to be like, oh, let them figure it out, I'll see some prompt from like whoever it is leading like a thought leader in these fields, and they were like, just copy and paste this prompt. And I'm like, why are we still copy and pasting prompts? Like, how is this not, this methodology, whatever we're inventing, how do we not bake it into the actual tools yet,
Yeah.
I've been playing yesterday with Fable because I have this gripe with all of the agent orchestrators, even at companies like, I don't know, Open Code or whatever. They'll be like, our team of 13 designers iterated on 17 iterations, and like the best they can come up with is a sidebar on the left and chat on the right. I had this as a meme. Whoever comes up, Cursor and Copilot, and like all of them came out with new iterations of an orchestrator, and the only thing they can come up with is like a list of folders, chats within them, and chat on the right side. And I'm like, if you work on two 2 projects with 2 chats, maybe this makes sense. But I'm trying to juggle literally 140 projects here. Not all of them are active. Not all of them are new. Not all of them are important. Like, why isn't there something that's like completely, like, I want to invent the IDE of like, that we would use 5 or 10 years later. That would maybe not make sense now, but we would use it like 5-10 years later.
Yeah.
And I've been trying with many other LLMs, didn't work. But yesterday with Fable, I finally had some breakthrough that I'm seeing something that I would like to use daily. That's not, I was like, rule number 1, no sidebars. We need to invent something that doesn't have a left sidebar, because left sidebar is scope. You're going to put everything there. And yeah, I don't want to drone too long about this, but there is hope that we'll see a new agentic operating system for work. Let's say not just immediately I started mixing my personal life and I'm like, this is too complex. Let's just invent like an agentic OS for managing my work as a programmer. That's not a sidebar and a chat. And that to me is like very exciting. When the role is changing and we're stuck with this old UI, that's when there's like friction and that's where people get frustrated. It's like, I don't want to be a manager. This role sucks, you know?
Yeah. I want to zoom into one of the things you mentioned, because before I met you, I looked at your GitHub history and I saw in one day there were like 300 changes in like 200 repositories. And I'm like, how the hell do you do that, right? People are, right now, I feel like augmenting their workflow with AI. So they are in the driver's seat. They have AI running in parallel, or they have autonomous AI running in a loop, contributing to pull requests. Where are you right now? And how do you do that in the first place? Contribute to like 300 on one day?
I'm struggling with that. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm still, whatever I tried, I'm coming back to just manually being in the workspace of a folder of a project and just juggling the chats there. Mostly in the Codex app, mostly with GPT 5.5 on extra high. That's my workflow. Until, let's say, yesterday, I tried Fable. I've tried making an orchestrator. This is my 6th iteration of trying to make my own. Probably I had one of the first, before like Codex, Claude, the desktop thingies came out. I was like, there has to be something that's better at juggling the browser tabs, the terminal, CLI, the chat, and blah, blah, blah. But I always end up abandoning it and always going back to like the tried and true thing that works, which is Codex.
Yeah.
So,
but Codex, the app specifically, not the
Codex,
CLI tool.
I abandoned the CLI because in the app, it's like, it's a way better workflow in every way for me. I was always a CLI hater. I was a terminal hater. For a while, I switched to using terminal-based tools because those were the norm, right?
Of course.
Codex CLI was great, even like in last September, October.
It's still great for some people.
So slow, and so many people didn't even think of switching from Cloud Code, and I realized that Codex is like really fucking good. So I had to cope with the CLI, and as soon as they had the desktop app, I was like, thanks God. I don't ever want to open a terminal ever
You still sound like a hater.
I'm still a hater. When I have to open a terminal, I always ask myself, like, why? What was the need behind it? What did I do here that I couldn't do in Codex? So, but Codex is like, it's visually messy, especially for my brain. When I look at the sidebar, like I'm scanning too much. Like there's not enough visual separation or visual cues to like, what do I need to look at? What do I need to review? What's in progress? What's been done? If I leave my computer for 1 hour now after this interview, if I open Codex, like what the fuck was happening here? You know, like what was I, like what's the point? What is waiting for me? What is blocked? So I still feel like agents can do way more. We just haven't designed the right interfaces to like, let them do more and design an interface for us to like, review their work in a streamlined way. That doesn't exist.
We are becoming the bottleneck. No?
We are definitely.
Because you only have so much cognitive load, so much observation skills, and if everything runs in parallel, well, you can't really accommodate for all that parallelism. It's a combo of you being, like you need to get shit done, whether it's for your employer, work, customers, whatever it is, and at the same time, you want to innovate on your process, and it's very hard to juggle the two of them, because it would be nice to take a month off and now experiment with inventing the ideal workflow. But most people need to keep doing their work while improving their workflow. So that's when the frustration comes in. Like, I know I should update my GitHub skill to tell it that in the future it needs to do A, B, and C. But I just hope that by yelling at it, we'll get there without me doing the extra admin work, you know? That's how most people vibe prompt or whatever. You know? Now more than ever, and this is also my advice to all leadership teams, people need to experiment, right? We are engineering our own engineering workflows. Never has there been a time where we need to do that more than now. And previously, I feel like we didn't really have a lot of innovation in how people execute it necessarily.
No.
CI/CD and more continuous and faster delivery and some dogma on metrics and ways of working.
It was like a blueprint and that's it.
Yeah, and you follow that or you just park it. And there wasn't that big of a difference in terms of impact, right? It worked and you took what worked for your organization and that was it. Now I feel like we have a revolution. Now I feel like we have proper disruption, which makes it so that everyone is figuring this out, right? I went to San Francisco at Google. I asked them the same questions. What bottlenecks, what challenges? All engineers, whether they are world-class or just starting up, we have the same challenges. And we are figuring it out as an industry. And when someone thinks they have a problem and they've solved it, they will blast it with marketing, one of the companies. But it's up to people to then experiment and be like, is this value or is this fluff? And that's, we need room for that.
Yeah.
It also makes it fun though, because right now, if you do get the time, what do you experiment with? For me, it's a bit like fundamental concepts. So what is a skill in the first place? How do I analyze my context? How do I improve? And for other people, it's like a new tool came out. It's very similar to a new framework. Let's dive into that. But have the freedom to do so, I feel like is step number one. And then you can actually execute on that.
Freedom to do so, because like when we throw these stakes around, it's kind of not fair because not everyone has the same, as we said, the playing field is equal. It's not. It depends whether you're an indie hacker or you have a job. Whether you have a job, there are people, they're employers, like you have unlimited tokens. And there's some people where they're like, hey, we have limited tokens or only one cloud subscription. And if you waste it, you're on your own. So it's like not everyone can do the same experiments equally. And not everything is fully fair. But if you're willing to throw $1,000, $2,000 per month, let's say, on all of this, then I would say it's kind of equal. People for Fable are like, oh my God, this is like $40 per hour. And I'm like, yeah, I've charged like 150 in the past and I'm a fucking idiot. You know, if I get like world class, like it has intelligence, but paired with our loops and process and whatever, and it charges me $30 or $40 per hour, fuck yeah, let's do it. If it's actually useful. If it's just going in loops and wasting tokens and struggling which commands to use, kind of the problem is in you and your orchestration,
skill
not in
issue.
It's skill issue. Long story short, it's a skill issue.
I
realize that more than ever with Fable because it's supposed to be super intelligent. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm the problem. My process, I'm not pointing it to the right things. I'm like, just make money, please. Look at my analytics, figure it out. I don't want to bother. That's what we want.
I don't want to instill FOMO, but there is a time where at some point you have world-class models, and if you don't know your way to engineer around them, no company is going to give you access because you have capable teams and capable people, or someone that's like new, up and coming, and has just been kind of blasphemy AI the whole time. For I feel like early in career people, there will always be educational tracks, but for the people that are like, well, I was always against, and now I have to, I feel like there's less room for you to then climb up. Right 100%. Now, it's still doable. It's still affordable. GitHub changed their license strategy. So that was the very cheap option, very capable with open source, high-class models. That is now gone, which means you have Cloud Code Max, for example. If you're an individual, you get a lot of bang for your buck. If you're on enterprise, you pay a full premium. That is incredibly expensive compared to what you can get as an individual, but you still have options. So it's kind of now or I don't know what the future is going to look like otherwise, which makes it, I don't want to instill FOMO, but definitely start learning, I would say.
Yeah, because people rest on their laurels in a way and they're like, oh, I'm a good engineer. Even if I had to learn this one day, I would. But then if you throw them into the room with people who have done very good vibe engineering setups, they'll realize, oh, fuck, it's not my coding versus their coding. It's my coding versus their setups. And learning the setups, especially as time goes on, is very overwhelming. And people are like, oh, there's so many words and buzzwords and tools. Well, if you started early, you would catch up like on every phase. People like specifically the loop tweet by Pete. Everyone, the easiest thing is to dunk on it and to be like, I don't want to, because he's like FOMO and they're like, I don't want to learn something new. He's stupid. He's just saying things to hype shit up. But the people who catch on early, I was like, okay, this guy's smart. Let me just see what he's talking about.
Let's dive in.
How is he doing a loop? How is they doing? Like they're already ahead of the curve instead of learning everything in a pile, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I feel like you have to be open-minded and you have to be curious. I am optimistic, but I also see that there will be a need if we engineer and refine our engineering workflows. There will be a need for ownership in production. There will be a need for maintenance of those workflows. We can probably apply a lot of those loops and learnings for other business problems and processes.
Yes.
There are still people working in Excel.
Yes.
All right. Can we add something that adds value to
Yes.
those processes?
Yes.
And no non-technical person is going to do that. I see a lot of opportunity. However, there will be the culling, where the people that are not curious, where the people that don't get any energy out of this, they will not have this comfy cushion anymore, which means they either get up to par or they drop off. That is something I do see.
Yeah.
But that was always kind of the case.
Kind of.
Except people had a comfy cushion because they could just coast. And I feel like the coasting is going away more and more. There will still be ways of working where people are a little bit more relaxed, bigger traditional organizations compared to fast startups. But still, I feel like you do need to be passionate about solving problems on a technical level. If you don't have that, then the baseline has always been messed up.
I like the word coasting, and I like what you said, that there's been way more room for coasting. And we threw so many things under the rug back in the day before LLMs did PR reviews. Like, I hate this entire reacting like, oh, we were so good and now LLMs are so bad. Like, I think they're more thorough when it comes to pull request reviews, because you can program the rules in English language that catch more things than the senior engineer who might have been not in the mood today and they're like, oh, fuck it, let's merge this. Like, we are acting like we didn't produce the spaghetti code bases that the LLMs are trained on. We produced them. So now I think it's in good organizations where they have this closed loops and stuff, it's harder to ship slop because somewhere down in the process, someone's going to catch you. One of the LLMs, they're like for assigned to part of the pipeline, they're going to catch you and be like, no, sorry, we cannot ship that. And I think people don't like that. They're like, oh, let me just be the old way. Like, it was so fun. We were playing PS4 in our office and we were fucking around and, you know, they miss that.
It's a job.
It's going to get more tighter and tighter and tighter. It's like, either you're a fucking rock star or you're gone.
Yeah. You can still be a rock star right now and have all your loops up and running. And if people praise you for the amount of work that you do, you're a legend. You're a legend and you should teach other people.
Yes.
Definitely.
But what is a realistic percentage of those kind of people in a company?
I only see them on Reddit, where it's like one person that has figured this out in this like niche organization. And he's like, don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
But AI is doing everything for me and people are praising me. I'm like, well, you're the best. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've also seen this narrative of, okay, we're talking about vibe engineering and we're talking about engineering loops. There was this one person lately in my thread that was like, there is so much work needing to go in here that I would rather write the code myself. And there I was like, I feel like you completely missed the point.
100%.
The more effort you put into refining your engineering workflows, the more it scales, right?
Yes.
Because if it works flawlessly, then probably with a few tweaks, it works flawlessly somewhere else as well.
Yes.
So the cost versus return, the cost benefit for me is just innumerous right now.
But we previously also hated to stop and refactor, right? You just wanted to go on and on and on. And we were like, oh, I'll refactor it later. I'll leave a comment.
Yeah.
Now the same thing is happening. It's just a different parallel, you know? Like, I don't want to, why would I refine my engineering loops and orchestration and whatever when I can just write the code myself? Yeah, technically it would be quicker in this particular scenario. But if you take 10 scenarios and you optimize and automate them, then everything is put on autopilot more and more and more and more as time goes on, you know?
Yeah. I had a last train of thought, which was, I wanted your perspective on the individual contributor, just solo engineer, solving problems really quickly with likely swarms of agents. I feel like that's where we're going, versus teams that also have agents, because I feel like those team interoperatings, that's going to be more apparent in the traditional business organization. How do you foresee teams and agents kind of meshing well and collaborating well? Because if we already have pain points when you, for example, do numerous projects at the same time, how are teams going to solve this problem?
I would say good fucking luck, and I'm glad that I'm working solo, because I said this, I've worked with humans and stuff, and I'm not a good CEO, I'm not a good orchestrator of humans. Like, the only path I see for myself is just being solo with as many agents as possible. I don't care about the pricing. I'll keep paying more and more and more if I see that they're all valuable and used. Teams will get a harder time to get accustomed to all of it, but I think there's a benefit where two humans have a hard time agreeing on something. I think an agent in the middle will just push and unblock more projects going forward. Because once you and me agree on this rule and we put it somewhere in our, somewhere in our pipeline, then the next engineer who comes cannot have much say, oh, but we did it that way in my company. But you can be like, look, we established a pipeline, it works for us. You got to get used to this process. We didn't invent it, it was the agent. So I think it's going to be harder, but easier because humans are emotional. Like I hate all of this when Sam Altman is like, it takes 20 years to grow a human. I think it's very cruel to start labeling us that way. But the reality is we're emotional. We have flaws. We need breaks. We have our personal life so much intertwined with our work life that I don't think that we are the best to drive things forward. I think we'll move back into some position where we just unblock agents. And in organizations and in teams, I see the agents crawling from like the helper that's doing pair programming with you to eventually the manager of your 3-person programming team, to eventually the CDO, to eventually to other positions where your job is to be on the lower levels just unblocking. There'll be very few people on the top level talking to these top level agents about how to trickle down our processes to the lower. I think everything's it's starting already to flip. I see it in my solo work.
Yeah.
I asked Fable yesterday, like, how do we inverse the process where you're the CEO, you run everything, and you just assign me tasks of how to unblock you and the sub-agents moving forward? So this is going to flip around. It's just going to take some time. There's going to be people who are going to rebel, throw Molotov cocktails, set data centers on fire. It's not going to be smooth, but I think it's inevitable, you know?
This is a fascinating observation, actually. I asked yesterday, Lindsley Simon, he's, I think, VP of Versal, and I asked him what distinguishes really good engineers. And he said, the best engineers at our company, they are the people that, first of all, are able to unblock themselves and then unblock others. So this pattern of really good engineers are people that also unblock themselves and unblock others, or potentially unblock whatever workflow, agentic or not, they have. That's a skill for me that resonates, that already now distinguishes really good engineers, and then potentially in the future as well. When things get blocked, someone needs to unblock it. And you have to be a person that signals it and then is able to move things in a way that it unblocks, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I like that. Because there's a lot of ego involved. Like in all of the levels in a company, from like seniors, engineers, seniors to like juniors, interns, whatever, there's so much ego involved. There's so many feelings being hurt and stuff that actually hurts the processes. I think people that are great to work with are people who go past their ego just to see the greater goal of the current sprint and the greater goal of this month and the greater goal of this company. Like sacrificing your own opinions and whatever for the sake of like, let's just achieve and make the customer happy or achieve our quarterly goals or whatever it is. There's not that many people that would go past their ego. They were like, no, but my degree and my knowledge and my opinions. And I think that's where the friction is. And sadly, those people would have to go. If they don't budge and if they keep being stubborn, they're going to become the bottleneck in the teams moving forward, you know?
Yeah. As a final thought, for the person that's listening, they might be inspired and they finally want to take a step towards vibe engineering, actually engineering their own workflow or building something with agents in the loop as well. What would you advise them as kind of a step one? Is there something they need to figure out first? Knowledge, tool? What would step one be?
I would say if someone is listening who's thinking of getting into IT and coding and all of this, I would say run, be a plumber, be an electrician, be someone who's going to be 10 times more paid than us.
No, I think no one that's listening right now, no one is left over that is not in this field.
There might be someone
this is for the people that are in the field.
I get many people that are currently in college and like, this is scary. Should I continue? Blah, blah, blah. Kinda, yeah. But if it's your first year in college, it's not too late to pivot into plumbing or whatever it is, you know. But on a serious note, I think my number one advice would be to stick to one provider and to stick to one model. Even though you're going to see so many tweets of like, we just switched to Composer 2.5 and it changed everything from us. So now you need to move your entire mindset from like using, let's say, Claude Code with Opus, with your skills, with the Claude specific words, buzzwords, whatever it is. Now you need to switch to a completely different tool that doesn't work the same. The sub-agents work differently and blah, blah, blah. Just because you think that the model is smarter or faster, but you're going to lose whatever practice that you've built up. So I think this was happening back and forth with like Codex and Claude and Codex and Claude. I think the people who stuck with their Claude, let's say, when everyone moved to Codex because GPT 5.5 is smarter, I think there are people with perfect Claude setups that are actually outshipping and outdoing everyone who moved in Codex because you can more lazily prompt the models. So I would say keep building, like stick to one thing. I mean, don't be too, stubborn and be like, I'm sticking with Claude forever. But the longer you do, the more you're going to build practices and skills and your mini framework of how you're doing things, and you can just ignore whoever is switching to. I guess to go back to what we said, it was true before, right? The people who mastered Angular and who did things their way, I'm pretty sure they were more productive than the people who jumped to immediately to React and to Svelte and to this and to that. So just stick to the one thing and try to go deep in it instead of going shallow in many, many different things.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good.
Thanks for coming on, Kitze. This was great.
Thank you, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.